name is Chris. I'm joined today by Walter Dobbins from Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and this is session 1148, If This, Jamf That, at JNUC 2022. As I said, this is If This, Jamf That, and our agenda today will be talking about Cincinnati Children's and how they have harnessed the power of automation. We will also discuss automation in the home by looking at Apple's HomeKit and examining a common problem that we can solve using home automation. We'll then take a moment to establish a common language between home automation and work automation. Then we'll take a look at Cincinnati Children's use of the Jamf Automation and Webhook Assistant, or JAWA, and how they're using that to perform processes in a more efficient way. And finally, if you'd like to learn more, we'll have plenty of resources at the end in order for you to dig in and begin your own automation journey. There are some key takeaways that we want you to walk away from this session with. The first is the broad power of automation and how you can use it to make your life simpler. The second takeaway is that webhooks are simply events. In Jamf Pro, these are events that are occurring in your environment to your managed devices. Think a device enters a smart group or a device is enrolled. Those are events. Remember that and take it away. JAWA or other webhook receivers can receive webhooks, and really want you to know that JAWA in particular is one that's free and open source. Then after receiving these webhooks or these events can then trigger actions using a tool like JAWA, and those actions can then go to solve our problems or help make our day-to-day processes a little bit easier. As I mentioned, my name is Chris. I'm a field sales engineer here at Jamf. I was also one of the co-creators of the JAWA project. So a little bit about me. I've been working at Jamf for almost 6 years at this point. I love spending time with my family. I'm really big into solving problems and puzzles. Anything that needs a solution, I will spend the time and try to work it out. I really love solving these problems with automation, and I have a passion for using Python as a programming language. And outside of work stuff, I like to spend a lot of time outdoors. I'm an avid gardener and love hiking, etc. Some things that I don't like, maybe number one is the phrase, that's the way we've always done it, because that discloses some complacency that I'm not okay with. I also don't like these manual repetitive tasks that we're having to do day in, day out without any kind of higher level thought. I don't like incomplete solutions, and probably most of all, I don't like mosquitoes. And joining me today, we have Walter Dobbins Jr. from Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And let you introduce yourself, Walter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Walter Dobbins from Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I am the Senior Client Systems Administrator for our mobile device management team here. I've been at Cincinnati Children's for 15 years now. Some of my likes that I want to share with you all is I enjoy spending time with my family just like Chris Ball does. Because I have a background of being a former employee of Apple, I enjoy Apple products, but also bundled with healthcare now. I enjoy being creative, and here recently I have learned the love of automation, which includes the understanding the language of Python. Personally, I enjoy playing the piano, which I play by ear, and I enjoy my saltwater fish tanks, which I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, but I'm constantly looking at other parts of the country, obviously, where saltwater fish come from. My dislikes, as I mentioned, I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, but I do not enjoy cold weather. I don't believe there's enough time in the day, as busy as we may be, whether it's with our families or at work. I wish we just had a little bit more time to accomplish some of the things that I would like to accomplish. And in Cincinnati, we have mosquitoes and we have snakes, probably because I live close to a lake pond and a golf course as well. So I despise snakes, and seems like every summer I'm fighting mosquitoes. So here at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, we've been a Jamf customer for over a decade. We originally started off our partnership with Jamf with just a Mac environment. We had about 1,000 or so Macs that we kind of started off with, and it was really focused on our research arm here at the hospital. Here recently, mobile devices exploded, probably around the world. But for here at Cincinnati Children's, we wanted to continue to be more mobile in our platform. And so with that, we went from managing about maybe 1,000 mobile devices to today we're at 7,200 mobile devices. And that really grew over the past 2 to 3 years. As we talk about this growth, as you see here, we have multiple buildings that we manage, and we have multiple mobile devices and Mac OS devices around the organization. Last year, we opened up our new critical care building, which housed all of our critical care patients. And so, when you think about critical care, you're talking about complex airway, the NICU, uh, the BMT facilities for bone marrow transplant. This facility housed about 250 rooms where we were able to put an Apple TV and a iPad in every single room that really focused on the patient experience. So as we talk about the power of automation, it provides the scalability, dependability, and as you focus on your own organization, you can provide customization. You'll be providing more extensibility in order to make it your automation that for your unique workflows within your environment. So from here, I'll turn it back to Chris to more detail as to want to discuss with you.
Thank you, Walter. Before we dive into unlocking the power of automation, I'd really like to drive this point home by describing a common problem, at least that I had in my house for a long time, for many, many years. Now, this is several years back when this problem began, and the problem is as such. I have a need whenever a certain time of day occurs and the sun goes down for my front door light to be turned on. Now, this sundown event, we call that sunset. And every day for years and years and years, because I had this need, I would have to, at the appointed time or the event, get up out of my chair or wherever I am, walk over to the light switch, flip the switch, and get my light to turn on. This was a very manual process, but it was easily solved as long as I'm at home and aware of the event approaching. I was able to get up and get this light turned on. Now, there's a lot of reasons why I want the light to be turned on. The number one is so I can see outside at night, so other people, maybe delivery drivers, etc., can see as they're approaching the porch, and also for home security purposes. And as I progressed, my needs grew, and my problem became a little bit more complicated. I realized that I have multiple outdoor lights, and I have a front door and a back door, and I want them both to come on at sunset. But thankfully, I'm married, and my wife and I make a great team. So together, we're able to coordinate. She humors me a little bit. I tell her, the appointed hour approaches. We go to our respective light switches. We coordinate, and we can both flip the switches and get the lights to come on at sunset. So we're still solving our problem. It's still pretty manual. It takes a lot of coordination, and it takes a careful eye on the clock to make sure that we get it exactly how I want it, but we can get this done. However, as time went on, my needs grew, the problem became even more complicated, and now I have 6 lights that I'm hoping to turn on outside. I have 2 lights in the front, I have a back door light, I have a side yard light, and I have some driveway lights. I'd like them all to come on right at sunset. Let's see how I can go about solving this problem now. Well, thankfully, my wife and I are still married, so we can take 2 of those switches. We still make a great team. And we have 3 children, and they're pretty cooperative. So if we convince them, they can maybe tackle those other 3 light switches. However, this leaves us with 1 switch that I cannot tackle. I only have 3 children. My wife and I only make up 2 people. I don't have anybody else to flip this last switch. Sure, I can run across the house and get it flipped after I flip my first switch, but my problem of needing the lights to come on right at sunset is suddenly impossible for me to solve. I have to make compromises in this process in order to get it done. That was at least until Apple invented and released their HomeKit technology, which I readily embraced to bring this kind of automation and control of my accessories like my lights, to my fingertips or in the palm of my hand. So now with Apple's HomeKit, I'm able to use my phone and the Home app, and instead of flipping the switch, it's as simple as tapping a button and the light will come on. This is a lot easier process for me. I don't have to get up. In fact, I don't even have to be at home in order to do this. So this is making my life a lot easier, and thankfully, it scales a lot better. So now with our 6 light problem, instead of having to run all across the house and coordinate with 4 other people, I can do this all from my phone with a few quick taps of the finger. Now, this is not all happening all at once. It's pretty close to sunset, though. If I tap quickly, I can get it to occur pretty close to the exact event that I was hoping for. However, there are still some problems. The number one being that I need to have my phone with me, and I need to have a network connection in order for me to control these accessories. Now, there may be times where either my phone is dead or I'm on an airplane and that the network will not be accessible, or simply I'm not at home and I'm not thinking about the sunset event because I'm busy enjoying my life doing something else. Those scenarios cause this problem to sometimes still be complicated to solve. That was at least until I noticed the automation section of the Home app, which I was then able to use that section to key off of an event. I already told you about my favorite event. It's that sundown event. We call it sunset. And whenever sunset occurs, I can just tell the app at this point to target my 6 lights and turn them all on at exactly the same time. So what did we gain by at home by embracing home automation and Apple's HomeKit? Well, we gained the power of automation. We gained scalability in that we can control any number of accessories or lights that we want to via the automation, and I can add and remove as much as I need to, and it's not going to affect the process. They'll all still come on at the same time. It provides customization options. We could set the lights to be a different brightness, or if we have color capabilities, we can even set them to be a different color at sunset. It is dependable, and I kind of touched on this before, but this automation will run even if my phone is dead, or I'm in an airplane, or I'm on a beach somewhere and not thinking about what time sunset is here in Texas. It is precise in that it's only going to operate on these specific accessories that we add to this automation. It's not going to make a mistake and turn on lights in my children's bedroom when I'm really trying to turn on the outdoor lights at sunset. It's also extensible in that HomeKit can interact with other apps in the Apple platform to save pictures to the camera roll, or even do things like send out emails when certain events occur. At this point, you might be wondering, where does Jamf fit in? This is, of course, a JNUC presentation, so we want to be talking about Jamf, but it's important to talk about the what we gained with home automation, and then maybe translate the phrases from HomeKit into the Jamf environment, so that we can help gain a common language and better understand automation at work. So in Jamf, or in the work environment, our home kit could be roughly equated to Jamf Pro. It could be a number of systems, but specifically we want to talk about Jamf Pro and the data developer tools that Jamf Pro provides, including data streams and webhooks, which, remember, are those events of things that are occurring in Jamf that can be sent out to something else. The home app in this scenario is Jamf Pro. Just imagine how much easier life became when you got Jamf and you're able to perform actions on your accessories or your devices, all within the UI. Like the home app UI is very similar in this case to the Jamf Pro UI. We're able to set up and perform tasks and carry out automations very easily, all through a single pane of glass. Now, the light switches are our processes. These are things that we have to do as admins. These could be daily tasks, not necessarily higher level tasks, but things that need to get done, and they require some amount of thought or effort on our part. Now, the automation section of the home kit or the home app, that is equivalent to the automation that Jamf provides automatically under the hood. Think things like smart groups and how you can chain policies, or app deployment or config profiles based on group membership. It's also automation tools such as the healthcare listener for healthcare environments, where we can automate the digital sanitization process. We also have, and I mentioned prior, the Jamf Automation and Webhook Assistant, or JAWA, which is a key player in making these automations work, in that it can receive those webhook events and then allow you to perform custom actions based on what occurred within the event. Now, the accessories themselves, those could be multiple things in the Jamf world. They could be devices, your iOS, iPadOS, or macOS devices. They could be servers that we need to interact with, maybe on-premise or in the cloud. Or it could be data itself. Data can be an accessory that we create or interact with as a product of an automation. I think maybe a flat JSON file that we're writing information to, or maybe we even collect information and store it within a database for better logging and metrics in the future. The last thing to take a look at are the events. Now, on the left-hand side, we have the events as they appear in the home app whenever you're setting up a new automation. And on the right-hand side, we have the webhook events that are available when you're creating a new webhook in Jamf Pro. Now, when you stare at these two lists, it might not be apparent that they're actually quite similar. However, if we transform the list on the right to look a little bit different, we can start to see how those similarities become apparent. We have, for example, the people arrive event in HomeKit. Well, we have a computers added event, which is kind of like computers are arriving or computers are being enrolled, which can then kick off some automated tasks, just like we did in the home app automation section.
Thanks, Chris. Here at Cincinnati Children's, we really enjoy the JAWA workflows, and mainly one of the workflows that we ideally use frequently here now is the mobile device check-in. Here, we understand that with any technology deck, there's always challenges, and every product is not always perfect. And so we understood that with the mobile device check-in, we will update the inventory record on a device, and the last check-in inventory date will show in Jamf Pro. But for us here at Cincinnati Children's, we wanted a little bit more understanding on the health of our devices. And so we worked to create this automation where when the device checks into our Jamf Pro server, we have a new extension attribute that called out that this was the last time that this device checked in to our server. This information allowed us to provide more precise information to our clinical staff in regards to some compliance policies that we create. Not only do we do the automated inventory, we allow the device names. And for the device names, that came real important to our patient experience. With the iPad and Apple TV assigned to the room, we wanted to make sure that the iPad assigned to room A was not controlling the Apple TV in room B. The automation came into really important because when a patient is discharged, that Apple TV and iPad wipes. Now, can you imagine if it was just myself or my colleague running around campus to make sure that one iPad and one Apple TV was always married and always had the connectivity to communicate with each other? We will probably not have enough time in the day, as I mentioned. JAWA makes sure that when an Apple TV, tvOS device, or iPad is enrolled within our patient experience workflow, the device name of the iPad and the device name of the Apple TV is always set for that room experience. More importantly, as we growing our mobile devices, we understood that logging and metrics was key. My director is really championing us on this to understand that data really does matter. The automations of JAWA and the logging and metrics, we're able to find real true troubleshooting on devices that may not be healthy, and metrics that will allow us to think deeper as we look to extend our automations and more integrations with additional network partners.
All right. In order to illustrate the, the power of automation and what Walter and Cincinnati Children have gained by adopting Jamf Pro and JAWA, let's take a look at this device naming and inventory setting process as it used to be. Now, this is back in the old days, in that unthinkable scenario that Walter described, of where he's having to, he and his colleagues having to go out physically to the location to make sure that these devices are named correctly and set up correctly. And in that situation, we don't have Jamf. We are just going to patients' rooms to get things set up. In order to do that, we will need to have a source of truth. This will be our source of information that's telling us what the devices are and what the inventory attributes need to be. In the old days, this could be maybe a CSV file on a server, a network share if we're lucky. If we're not so lucky, it might just be a piece of paper or a notepad that we're keeping our notes on as we're running around from building to building. And then we'll need to travel physically to the devices themselves. And if you're not doing this, then maybe instead you're phoning up the end user, disrupting their entire day to perform this process for you. Either way, we're going to have to take this iPad away from work functions in order to get it set up and named properly. Then we'll go into the device, open the settings app, and this is for an iPad. We'll then click on settings, about, and then go to its name. And then we can set it to a new name, because iPad is not the best name for an iPad on your network. Doesn't really tell you what device that is. So this process, when we're on foot and doing this manually, it takes a lot of time just for one device. It's very disruptive for the end user. In this case, that might be a patient that's trying to use the devices. So it's disruptive perhaps to their care as well. Could you imagine? I can't imagine doing this process for 50 iPads. And if we're talking about the scale of 7,200 that Walter mentioned earlier, this process completely goes out the window. It is not sustainable. Thankfully, with Jamf, this process was made a lot easier. Now, we still need a source of truth. And if it's that CSV file, maybe we have this uploaded into Jamf's inventory preload, or at least we have it handy on the same computer where we can just copy and paste information over. Process is already improved by that measure. Now, with Jamf, we can also go directly to a device's record, update its information using our source of truth, get its name set, and then click the Save button in the top right in order to save the device inventory information and send the device name command down to the device to make sure that it gets renamed appropriately. Now, this process is a lot better than what we were having before of having to walk physically to two locations in order to set the name. In fact, it's so much easier that I think that this process scales a lot better. However, once we start thinking about the sheer number of devices that Walter described, and you also account for the high device turnover, I guess, while devices are being wiped and re-enrolled, we would want to double check this information and make sure it's set constantly. Now, Walter does not work 24 hours out of the day, so if devices were being enrolled in the middle of the night and their information was not set correctly, that creates actions required on Walter's part at the beginning of his workday in order to set these devices' information correctly. So this process, as we start to scale and we think about how hospitals are continually operating around the clock, while workers are typically to 8 or 9 hours out of the day, if they're lucky, this process just once again does not scale well. So thankfully, with JAWA, we are able to solve this problem a little bit more succinctly. Now, with JAWA, we're keying, of course, off of those webhook events from Jamf Pro. And in this case, we're keying off of the mobile device enrolled event, which when it occurs, Jamf will send it over to the JAWA server. Now, we still need our source of truth, but in this case, JAWA is keeping the source of truth on the server itself. So this is something that we provided to the server. We don't have to continually check on it. We don't have to reference it because the robot on the server will reference it for us. Now, since JAWA has this source of truth, when it receives the event, it's able to figure out all of the required information that needs to be set in the device's inventory, as well as the desired device name, send that name down to the devices, and they are named automatically. Now, this is amazing because Walter doesn't have to worry about devices that were enrolled in the middle of the night being misconfigured or not set up properly, because this robotic assistant or this JAWA is able to ensure that the names and configuration is done correctly. So all Walter has to do in the morning is double check to see if anything looks askew. And with that, I'll hand it right back over to Walter to discuss what he's gained by embracing this power of automation.
Thanks, Chris. And as Chris mentioned, the need for automation at Cincinnati Children's was critical to our workflows. As we continue to grow and expand our mobile platform, we wanted to make sure that, especially for our patients and families, that they had the same experience. No matter if they came in the wee time of the morning or if they were here late at night, we wanted to make sure that every Apple TV and every iPad was in use and had the same experience. They can bring their own content from home, whether it's Disney Plus or any other content that they may sign up for. They can have it at their bedside. So that provides a 24/7 patient experience for all of our patients and families. Filling in the gaps was very, very important to us too. What we learned as we embarked on our adventure of putting a consumer product like the Apple TV in a patient room, that we would deploy a payload that would say, Apple TV, never go to sleep. But we noticed that after 15 minutes, the Apple TV went to sleep, even though the payload was deployed. The power of JAWA and the automation filled this gap. It allowed JAWA to read through via API that a certain event was occurring. And when that event occurred, it allowed the JAWA to send a command through Jamf Pro to the devices to restart the Apple TV. After that restart, the Apple TV stayed awake and never went to sleep. And so we were very, very excited that we always have access to the Apple TVs, not just for our patients or families, but from a support standpoint, we are able to manage and control those Apple TVs 24/7. JAWA with the automation is a central source of truth. As Chris mentioned, you can have a CSV file and walk from room to room to make sure that you have the information to apply to the devices so that they're married together. But with the automation, we can take that same CSV file and put it on the JAWA's automation server, and it will be precise to name the Apple TV and iPad what you desire it to be. It's scalable and it's efficient. It's so scalable that, as I said, we're growing. One thing I didn't mention is that we have a North Campus that's up in our Liberty Township, which is north of Cincinnati, Ohio. I can't imagine myself or my team members going up there every time we needed to adjust or even wipe an Apple TV or our iPad. So with Jamf Pro, with JAWA, and with the healthcare listener, we have a complete robotic workforce that is helping us get the job done. So, as we learned in the session, it's the power of automation that allows things to happen as you desire it to be. With JAWA, it's scalable. As I mentioned, your campus, your organization may be growing, your workforce may not be growing. But with JAWA, you can still manage the devices as you desire it. It's customizable, so it can be built for your organization as you desire it to be, whether that's metrics, whether that's logging, or whether that is just making sure that all your devices are online. It's dependable and it's precise. With the CSV file and the automations in place with the scripts, you are confident that the only devices that will be touched are the devices that are aligned for that serial number for the automation. And as you grow your JAWA workflows, it's extensible. Again, as Chris mentioned, JAWA is not just for Jamf Pro. It can listen to other APIs as you want to extend your workflows within your organization.
All right, so the summary is, are your current processes too slow? If so, move faster with JAWA, or simply by embracing the power of automation to take your day-to-day processes and make them as automagic as possible. So we hope you've enjoyed this session. If you're wondering, what next steps can we take to learn more about any of the concepts that we discussed, please start by taking a look at the developer portal at developer.jamf.com, which will describe webhooks, which is that short link below, jamf.it/webhooks in our developer guide. It also describes interacting with the Jamf Pro API, which is often an essential part of automation workflows with Jamf. The other two links are links to the JAWA project. The jamf.it/automations is the JAWA project as listed on Jamf's Marketplace, and jamf.it/JAWA will take you to the GitHub page where you can download and get instructions on how to install the application. And with that, we thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoy JNUC 2022, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your Jamf buddies to learn more. Thanks so much.